my almost like intuition radar of what's right and what's wrong, and always followed what's right. It's been easy for me. And I think part of it all kind of clicked when I just really didn't, I started not caring about what others thought of me. I was like, that was the starting point. All whilst you care about way that others think, you're going to chase things for others' validation. And when I was younger, I did it all the time. I'm not trying to preach to the choir and saying that I'm the Messiah, right? Because of how I don't do that. I did it, but all I'm talking about is just evolution based on my choices, which potentially means your listeners can come in and go, yeah, you know what? Actually, I might be more in my intuition says, you know what? Yeah, follow that route of truth, and you might actually just open up layers of your mind for the better. But yeah, I just think the more I've done it, the more I've found myself to be closer to my actual purpose. And what most people find, whilst they're not living in their truth, they just think their purpose is to make money. Make money for what? If it's past the fact of being just to be able to support yourself and your family, if you're after the Ferrari, or you're after the yacht, or you're after whatever else, you're just searching for others' validation, which means you're lying to yourself. So the reality is there could be an abundance for everyone, but because people lie to themselves through the existing system, they leave themselves in this place of wanting more and finding themselves further away from their actual purpose and alignment. Once you find yourself in alignment with yourself and what you do for your purpose, you start to find that everything just comes together. And I live in a state of life now where I'm like, because I don't care about those things, guess what? It just comes to me anyway now. And all those days when I was struggling away, trying to hustle to make the buck or make the first investment to get moving, and you're like, you feel like you're not really in alignment with yourself. It's really difficult. And guess what? Once you get in alignment with yourself, things just happen. They just flow.
It's fascinating. I mean, and I, one of the things that has always sort of amazed me about the getting and spending sort of thing you touched on is the fact that for those kinds of people, right, it feels as though there is no finish line. I mean, how many billions can you amass before there's no point to it anymore? I mean, it's literally just a contest to see who can accumulate the most. And I'm not anti-wealth. I'm not anti-wanting material things. All that stuff is fine. But when it becomes for its own sake and there is no value behind it, I don't get it. I see the movie Wall Street, and it's such a great, classic movie. And I mean, at some point, Bud Fox says to Gordon Gekko, how many yachts can you ski behind? Like how many things can you get? How many things can you accumulate before it just becomes nonsensical? And so, again, I think if you're doing it from a place where it's coming to you naturally because you're aligned with what you love to do and you're serving, then I think more power to you. If you're stepping on people to try to get ahead or to do things, or taking things away from people that don't have anything to begin with in order to ingratiate yourself, that's where I think that's where it starts to get evil. That's where it starts to get ugly.
This is where there's a really interesting overlap, isn't there? So you've got, for people in some capacity, if you're chasing so much money and you're looking to keep it for yourself, there is some level of consciousness that you're missing, some level of understanding within yourself that you're missing, right? Because you're still living on these paradigms of either fear, and if you're talking about power and pride, that's still on the basis of paradigm, and not even have the courage to say, you know what, yeah, I need to understand, to look at the world in a different way. So that's already one issue. And then beyond that, let's say if we override that issue and say your point's right, you want to try and live for your purpose and do what it is, which is great, right? But then if you have reached that position where you've done so, you've then got to surely, there's only one way of understanding that the world needs to be more equitable in a certain way, but you've risen your position of power and essentially fuel, right? The way I just see money is just fuel, it's petrol, right? That's all it is, it's gas. So why should I have 1,000 petrol stations and someone have 0, right? It's no use to me. So actually, if you've got to that position of power and understanding, you should be already trying to find a way or ways to be able to make the world more equitable through the fact that you've been given access, whether that's through luck or for your own gain, from your own, things you've done in life, or whether you've inherited it or whatever. If you reach a certain level of consciousness and understanding that you're there to just provide for everyone else because you've got the ability to, because you have no material gain out of anything, and then that's within itself is what makes and motivates you, then anyone that's in a position of power that's got tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars should already be creating systems which change the existing financial system. Otherwise, they're clearly not conscious to it and they're still holding for their own gain, right? So I mean, when you really extrapolate it, and you've got to extrapolate every layer of it. If they're not doing something to change the status quo for the betterment of humanity, there is even though you might look at these people as they're most amazing, they're the richest people in the world, they're so super smart, they're building rockets, right? Great. But there's clearly something missing in their level of consciousness of understanding what really matters in this world, and what matters in our physical selves, and actually understanding who we truly are as beings itself. They've been caught, they're so caught up in this physical world because of the system that we've created. We've actually forgotten what we actually are. And once you start to understand that and you reach those new levels of understanding, you start to realize, oh, hang on, what is all this that's been created? Like, what is the only thing that matters? And this always links back. I always look at it this way. Have you got kids?
I do. 3.
Okay, perfect. So what do you want for your 3 kids as a father?
I want them to be passionate about what they do. I want them to be true to who they are, and I want them to be the best versions of themselves. I mean that's the happiness that comes from that.
Looking for. Be the best versions of themselves. Now, being the best version of themselves is raising their consciousness to higher levels of than what we are speaking about right now. And so therefore, as humans, as this state of consciousness in 2025, where we are right now, all our goal is to put the breadcrumbs in place to ensure the next generation elevate the consciousness to another level. So if we're not putting those breadcrumbs in, we're not fulfilling our purpose as father. I'm not even a father yet. Like one day when I do have kids, right? But that's the way I always link it to it. It's like, I'm going to want my kid to be bigger and better than me. But is bigger and better defined as? Because in the last 20, 30, 40 years of my life, I'm 40 this year, I reckon it's probably been defined bigger and better as, they make more money than me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest load of bollocks ever. Like, think about it. It's such bullshit. It really is. And that's what we've been taught in this society. Then, okay, if it's not that and we accept that, then what is it? Okay, being better versions of themselves. Okay, now define better versions of themselves. Okay, well, they've got to have firstly, they've got to have courage to be truthful, like you said. Okay, so that's the standard layer of consciousness in an upper paradigm. And then, okay, from that courage, they understand the way the world works to a point of where actually they look at every single person on the planet just the same as they do. The problem is we've been created in society today. It's not just the financial system. It's the actual system that we live in as families as well. Yeah. Because in theory, because you spend time with your 3 kids, they have a value higher to you than 3 other kids out there, right? Mm-hmm. But if our consciousness was that high, they wouldn't have any other value because they're all equally the same, right? We've been although the family unit has had this fantastic effect on society to secure society, and I am one for holding on to the family unit, not one for this woke separation society definitively, which I feel we can go into feminism if you want, but I mean, let's try not to, and how that's ruined society. But I mean, we've got to get to a point with our own levels of consciousness to understand that our children and any other child or any other human out there are just all equally the same. We're all one another. We're all part of each other, right? We're all part of the same flesh and blood, same. And if you do believe that there's something inside us that directly comes from the divine, which I do, I'm not going to use the word God, I use divine, because God's a term that's thrown about too many and linked to religions, and I'm not really for that. I'm linked to that there is something above us. I believe there's something inside us that comes directly from source, and therefore in each and every one of us there's something that comes from source.